Guru
Bahut
Gopal
thoughtful.
Kapoor ki jai. So my congratulations to all of you. So have some taken first and some taken second initiation?
No. It's just the first initiation so
Just
far.
the first initiation. Okay, one. So who took initiation on that day then? Was it just Murali Gopal Prabhu?
No, we were six of us.
Okay.
So there was the two of us, and then there is Indusa. She comes sometimes on the
Okay.
group, but her name is Ishwarya Radha. Then there
Wonderful.
was Diana, who is Divya Radha. Then there was Tim, who was Tanay Gopal. And
Wow.
then there was Dan, who is now Dheer Gopal. So
Dheer
all the
Gopal.
Gopals are Madan Gopal's uh, disciples,
Offspring.
offsprings. Yeah, we are the great great grandchildren. So we are very dear to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. So Ayushman, as your uncle, Ayushman
Yeah.
Baba, Krishnamati Rastu. Actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said the blessings the Vaishnavas will always offer to each other, whether old or young, is Krishnamati Rastu. Have you had this before, Mataji?
Yes, Mahamandas Prabhu just gave me those blessings yesterday, and I wasn't sure what it was, but now you've explained it to me. So
So
I'm
Krishnamati
grateful.
Rastu means may you always remember Krishna. May you always be in
Oh,
remembrance of Krishna.
that's wonderful.
Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for those wonderful blessings.
So, shall we begin?
Yes, we can begin. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for joining today's class. We are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 3, Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is the manifestation of Brahma from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and the text for today is text 7. So over to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
We'll start off with Mangalacharan and then we'll proceed on to the verse. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Tirmahannasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitham Tham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jaitam Suruto Pangor Mama Mandir Mater Gati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Moha Madana Mohana Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadaha Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanastu Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prashtali Sevya Manusmarani Shriman Rasa Rasarambhi Vamsi Patatatastita Karshan Venus Vinepopi Gopinata Shriyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum rangayate garim yat kripatamaham bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami iti namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatpadeshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Srila Prabhupada ki jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam namaskrityam naram chevam narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet nashta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavati sevaya bhagavate uttama shloker bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Reading from, as Mataji mentioned, Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 8, Verse 7. This chapter is entitled Manifestation of Brahma from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So I will put that here. Proktam, sorry, my text is very small here. Proktam kiletad bhagavattamena nivriti dharma bhiratayatena sanat kumarya sachaha prishtha sankhya ya anayangatrita vrataya proktam kiletad bhagavattamena nivriti dharma bhiratayatena sanat kumaraya sachaha prishta shankyayana yangatrita vrataya. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Abhay Charanarvindam. Abhay Charanarvindam Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Sankarshan thus spoke the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sage Sanat Kumar, who had already taken the vow of renunciation. Sanat Kumar also, in his turn, when inquired by Sankyayana Muni, explained Srimad Bhagavatam as he had heard it from Sankarshan. So it's interesting. I was listening to this very old recording of Sri Srimad Bhakti Saraswami giving a Brihad Bhagavatamrita. For those of you who don't know, Brihad Bhagavatamrita is, well, if you're familiar with the Ramayana, there's also a hidden part of the Ramayana known as the Uttaramayana, which is what happens after Lord Ram returns back, and it gives the story of Love and Kush. So Brihad Bhagavatamrita literally means the great nectar of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's actually narrated by Parikshit Maharaj's son. But anyway, that's a whole many-day seminar. So that's, and Sanatana Goswami has this through revelation. This is narrated to him by Radha Madan Mohan. But there is a purport that Sanatana Goswami gives, and he talks about how the Bhagavatam, and actually all of the Vedas, were written by Ganapati. So Vyasadeva was narrating it, and for the benediction, the benefit of the residents of Kali, who have very kind of limited memories. For those of you who don't know, all of the Vedas were heard once, and people's mind and intelligence was so powerful, they became Shruti Dhar. Shruti Dhar means that Shruti, after hearing, Dhar, they could carry what they had heard in their consciousness forever. So you would hear all 18,000 shlokas of Srimad Bhagavatam once, and you would remember every single verse in your memory for all time to come. You would hear all 100,000 shlokas of Mahabharata once, and you would be able to carry all of the Mahabharata in your mind. So realizing that with the onset of Kali and the declining faculties of the Manav, Kali Yuga Manav, the residents of this planet, the human beings of this planet, Vyasadeva in his mercy arranged that these be codified. And the scribe was none other than Ganesh, Ganapati. And often you'll see that Ganesh only has one tusk. And that's because the other tusk Ganesh used as his quill. He would dip it in the ink and he would write. And actually this form of Ganesh had 4 hands. So this is Sanatana Goswami is explained. Sanatana Goswami is a senior disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In fact, the eldest disciple of Chaitanya, in one sense, of the 6 Goswamis. And Ganesh would have a scribe and paper and scribe and paper. So Vyasadeva said, you can be the scribe and have this great benefit of hearing all of the Vedas under two conditions. First condition is that at no stage can you stop writing. The second condition is, the only condition you can stop writing, the second condition is that you must understand everything that you have written. And only when you don't understand can you stop writing. So Ganesh said, Jayagya Maharaj, and he would be writing with one hand, two sets of hands, holding the parchment and writing with one. And as soon as he'd come to the end of the page, his other two hands would take over, while the first two hands got a new piece of paper and set up. So there was this continuous writing. And Sanatana Goswami was describing, or Guru Maharaj was describing, that actually at a certain juncture, Vyasadeva would give a very difficult Sanskrit verse. So the nature of Sanskrit is that you have 4 or 5 words which are combined. It's called, in English or French, called portmanteau, that they combine 3 or 4 words. And the nature of these words is that you can subdivide it in different ways. So I'm trying to give an example in English. Okay, imagine you had a word like anyway, I can't think of one now, but multiple words will be joined together. So depending on when you subdivide the words, the verse will have a very different meaning. So sometimes when Vyasadeva would want to go off and take bath and have prasad, he would give a very difficult verse to Ganesh. And it would be so complex that even Ganapati would be thinking over it. And he said at that time, Vyasa would go and have his bath, take his prasad, and resume back. So in that way, the Vedas were still being translated. They were still going on. But when he wanted to pause, it wouldn't be from his side. It would be because of Ganesh. So whenever I encounter the Srimad Bhagavatam now, and there is a verse which I struggle with the Ucharan, I think, what hope do I have if even Ganesh is struggling with this Sanskrit? Anyway, I thought I would share that with you all today. So purport, by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhai Charanaravinda, Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This is the way of the Parampara system. Although Sanat Kumar, the well-known great saintly Kumar, was in the perfect stage of life, still he heard the message of Srimad Bhagavatam from Lord Sankarshan. Similarly, when he was questioned by Sankyayana Rishi, he spoke to him the same message he had heard from Lord Sankarshan. In other words, unless one hears from the proper authority, one cannot become a preacher. In devotional service, therefore, 2 items out of the 9, namely hearing and chanting, are most important. Without hearing nicely, one cannot preach the message of the Vedic knowledge. So for those of you, the 2 out of the 9 is Nava Anga Bhakti. Nava Anga Bhakti is, I'll give you these are the 9. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. But I'll give you the Srimad Bhagavatam reference. We should all remember this verse. If I'm not mistaken, yes. It is Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 5th chapter, 23rd to 24th verse. And these are the conversations of Prahlad Maharaj. These were often quoted by Srila Prabhupada. So 7.5.24. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Pada Sevanam, Archanam Bandhanam Dasyam, Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. So this Nava Anga Bhakti is very important. We'll come back to that maybe later on. I think that this verse and this purport is very apt, given that 5 or 6 of you have now taken Diksha. So there is 2 forms of instruction, or there's 2 forms of initiation. Not even initiation. There are 2 forms of guru. There are many forms of guru, actually. If you go by the Avadut in the 11th canto and Uddhav Gita, you can be taught by anything. But there are 2 principal forms of guru. There is the Diksha Guru and there is the Shiksha Guru. So Of these two, obviously the emphasis is often given on the Diksha Guru, taking the initiation. But actually, as this purport is indicating, hearing and chanting are most important. Without hearing nicely, one cannot preach the message of Vedic knowledge. The shiksha is preeminent to the diksha. The instructing spiritual master presides over the initiating spiritual master. Shiksha means instruction, and diksha means to formally take initiation. Both are important. I'm not trying to minimize the diksha guru, but we receive diksha in order to pursue shiksha. We do not pursue shiksha in order to receive diksha. You see, diksha, to initiate. To initiate means what? To commence. It doesn't mean that is the goal. You know, you can study so hard, and then you're finally admitted into university. And then you have a very expert teacher like Kirtidas Sundari Mataji. But that doesn't mean once I've got in and I've been initiated, I've been granted admission, that the work stops. Actually, the real work then begins. And you may have one person who recommends you for admission, but you will receive instruction from many places. But most importantly of all, and especially when it comes to spiritual knowledge, you see, you will gain admission from one party, but it is the party, and that Diksha Guru is the person who will connect you to the curriculum. But the Acharya is the one who has not only formulated the curriculum, but will connect you to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Diksha Guru connects you to the curriculum. The Guru connects you to the Acharya. Acharya means sadachar, means conduct. The one, Prabhupada used to translate it in this way. Acharya means in whose footsteps we must follow, who sets the perfect standard. So the Diksha Guru is the perfect follower of the Acharya. But the Acharya is the perfect link to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And ultimately in our tradition, to Srimati Radharani. Gaudiyas. We are actually followers of Srimati Radharani. We follow Srimati Radharani ultimately to serve Krishna, but our line is following from the servants of Srimati Radharani. So the reason that this is important is that we must be very clear what it is that we are doing when we have taken initiation. I am in no way trying to minimize the Diksha Guru. The Diksha Guru has taken it upon himself to be responsible for guiding his followers to become exemplary followers of the Acharya. But we must ultimately understand that our sadhya, our goal, is to be a strict follower of Srila Abhay Charanarvindam Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and ultimately of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I think in order to do this, this verse is very apt because Prabhupada is already talking about parampara. He's showing how parampara from Sanat Kumar is now being passed on to Sankyayana Rishi in terms of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I wanted to explore the concepts of parampara, wanted to explore the concept of sampradaya, right? What's the difference between parampara and sampradaya? And the concept diksha and shiksha that we've already talked about, and the nature of being a disciple or a spiritual seeker, a sadhika. We are all sadhika. A sadhika means one who performs sadhana, one who is regularly and formally engaged in some form of sadhana is known as a sadhika. So what does the ideal sadhika look like? So let's start off with what Srila Prabhupada has talked about initially. This is the way of the parampara system. I'm sure all of you will have some kind of notion of what parampara means. There is a famous verse in Bhagavad Gita. I wonder if we all know it. 4th chapter, 2nd verse. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo vidu sa kalaneha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo vidu. Many people, Prabhupada must have quoted this many times. And this literally translates into this supreme science which was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession and the saintly kings. Sorry. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in the course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost, right? So what Krishna is saying is that the supreme science, Bhakti Yoga, the Vedic Siddhanta, is passed through guru, disciple, guru, disciple. Why do we have universities? Why don't we just pick up the book? I'll read it for myself. No, because there's a huge voluminous thing of books. You need to be able to navigate your way through that book. And then you can do wider reading. But you need to be given a course by somebody who themselves has been given a course. If you want to apply to a university, one of the first questions that a hiring professor will ask a prospective professor is, well, where did you study? If you want to come and teach, we must first know where you have studied, right? So I can only be competent to pass on information if I've also been trained by somebody else who is competent to pass on that information. And they have been trained, and they have been trained, and they have been trained. Equally, when it comes to spiritual knowledge, which is the all-encompassing and most complex form of knowledge, how much more important it is that everybody who is claiming to be a representative and being able to pass on this information is also properly and suitably trained. So in the course of time, this link was lost. And as a result, this link was broken, and therefore the science appears to be lost, which shows that only if you are in parampara can you truly be a custodian of this science. I can't come in as like a third party and all of a sudden just pick up a Bhagavad Gita and start becoming a guru. I can't do that. I have to be within this disciplic succession. So that is the nature of parampara. Parampara means, just to re-emphasize, a lineage of disciples who ultimately become a guru to create more disciples who latterly or thereafter can become gurus. It doesn't just mean I have turned up and started speaking on spiritual science. No, Krishna says, if the succession is broken, the science as it is will be lost. You can give some wisdom, but it might be mixed in with a lot of your own speculation. It's like if I have a recipe for the world's greatest cake, but 50% of it is lost. I might make a fantastic base, but then all the rest of it will be speculation. It's somewhat a cake, but the rest of it is just speculation. Maybe I put some garam masala in and some hing and, some crazy things into that cake. It starts off as cream and nice, but then it's got all crazy things for my speculation. Would that be a good cake? Of course it won't. I start putting mogo in there and, what's the other one called? Anyway, I've forgotten what it's called. What's that rajma called? Marage. And I just start speculating, putting all sorts of ingredients in. That's not the science as it is. I start putting marage into the cake. What is this? In the same way, parampara is very important. So parampara means my immediate lineage, right? We now have, we'll take another parampara. You all know Keshav Maharaj very well. Keshav Maharaj, his guru is Sri Srimad Kadambakanana Swami. His guru is Jayadvaita Maharaj. His guru is Srila Prabhupada. We have a little parampara that's already formed over there. Guru disciple, guru disciple. What then is a sampradaya? What is the difference between a parampara and then a sampradaya? So we see that a parampara, you can have many paramparas within one sampradaya. So if you take ISKCON, for example, ISKCON or the Gaudiya movement generally, we'll take ISKCON. So or you can take the Gaudiya movement more generally of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That means the overall school. So let's say you take Oxford University. We'll take Oxford University. Oxford University has many colleges, let's say 20 colleges. And in those colleges, you can learn all the subjects. So you may be a graduate of law from Magdalen College in Oxford, and someone else may be law from Christ Church in Oxford. There will be many graduates from Christ Church, there'll be many graduates from Magdalen College. But they are all still under this all-encompassing identity of Oxford University. If anybody asks, it's a specific thing, but the overall curriculum, whether it's in Christ Church College or Magdalen College, will be the same. Equally, for those of you who are coming from His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, the teachings that he is given will not be fundamentally different to the teachings that Jayadvaita Maharaj is given. Right? It's a different parampara immediately, but they all trace back to Srila Prabhupada. So sampradaya means the school of thought. However, if you went to speak of somebody who is in a Mayavadi sampradaya, and you told them, Ete changsa kalo prumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, they'd be like, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam? Krishna is not the source of all incarnations. The Brahman is the source of incarnations. So their teachings would be fundamentally different because it is a fundamentally different institution of learning. So the sampradaya means the school of thought. Now the Padma Purana has identified that there are 4 legitimate sampradayas. There are 4 legitimate sampradayas. There are innumerable illegitimate sampradayas. These are known as Apa Sampradayas. Apa Sampradayas means institutions of learning which do not have a bona fide foundation, and it's not bona fide because you cannot trace that tradition back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so what are those 4 sampradayas? So Padma Purana says Brahma, Rudra, Sanaka, Lakshmi, Sampradaya Pravartaka, Madhva, Srinatha, Nimbharka, Vishvamityadi, Guruvaha. Okay, so what this, and in fact there's another verse which I was looking for. Yes. Sampradaya vihinaye mantraste nishphala matha ata kalo bhavishyanti chatvaraha sampradayina. So mantras not received through a bona fide disciplic lineage or sampradaya are considered fruitless. Therefore, in the age of Kali, 4 sampradayas will manifest. Okay, this is Padma Purana. This is the Veda speaking. And that first verse, which I mentioned, describes what those 4 sampradayas are. Brahma, Rudra, Sanaka, Lakshmi, Sampradaya, Pravartaka, Madhva, Srinatha, Nimbharka, Vishva, Mityadi, Guruva. So what this has described is this has described the 4 different sampradayas. The 4 different sampradayas are the Sri Sampradaya, the Brahma Sampradaya, the Rudra Sampradaya, and Sanaka Sampradaya, which is the Kumar Sampradaya. So we're talking about Sanat Kumar. There's also Sanat Kumar, Sanatan Kumar, and Sanat, Sanatan, Sanaka, and Sanandan. 4 brothers, the 4 Kumaras. 4 Kumaras are the head of one Sampradaya. Rudra, Lord Shiva, is the head of one Sampradaya. Lakshmi, the wife of Narayan, is the head of one Sampradaya. And Brahma, the first being in the universe, is the 4 Sampradaya. Each one of these individual parties or groups have received direct transmission of the full Vedic knowledge from Krishna, directly. They haven't gone off and speculated. They haven't woken up one day and said, I've got no. They have been directly trained and given this information by Krishna. Directly trained in, not just some, I'll start my institution today. I'll call it the art of something or whatever else, art of living, art of yoga, and all of this. Oh, where is your tradition coming from? If it is not coming from within one of these four schools, Padma Purana is very clear. It's not legitimate. Now, as we already described, within these four schools, you will have many, 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 many paramparas. One guru can have 5,000 disciples. That means we have made potentially 5,000 paramparas within that one sampradaya. And if each one of those 5,000 disciples makes 5,000 disciples, we have got hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of potential paramparas coming in. But if they are true disciples, and if they are therefore become true gurus, the spiritual science as it is will not vary from one parampara to another. It will not vary. And then ultimately, the point of all of this is that the reference point, i.e., the teachings of the head of the parampara, will remain the same. Everyone will be aspiring not just to please their Diksha Guru, but ultimately to follow in the footsteps of the head of their sampradaya. The head of their sampradaya, whether it be Brahma, whether it be Rudra, whether it be the Kumars, or whether it be Lakshmi. They will want to be faithfully following the head of their sampradaya. And if they are intelligent, they will look at the teachings of their Shiksha Gurus, and they will compare it to the ultimate teachings of their Udarika Acharya, and they will say, does this correlate? If there's some deviation in what these people are telling me, and this is different to what the head of my tribe, I will disregard that immediately. Because I am actually but serving these people around me to become more faithfully a follower of the head of my sampradaya. That is the whole point. So why are we going through all of this? So we have these four heads of the sampradayas, and then in this very verse, Brahma, Rudra, Sanaka, Lakshmi, Madhva, Srinatha, Nimbharka, Vishwamityadi. So in the head of these four sampradayas, these four schools, consider them like four universities. In Brahma, there was the Sampradaya Acharya, known as Madhva. He's being talked about here thousands of years before his appearance. Madhva was within the Brahma Sampradaya. We are called the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So we are coming within Brahma's overall Sampradaya. And within all of his many paramparas, we have found the parampara of Madhvacharya. He's the most prominent. And then from Madhvacharya, we're coming to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'll get to that later. Rudra, we'll go to Lakshmi, Sri Sampradaya in South India. Who is the Sampradaya Acharya? Ramanuja Acharya. About 1,000 years ago, he appeared. 108 Divya Deshams, including beautiful places that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also went to, like Sri Rangam, Tirupati, Sri Parambadur, Kanchipuram. One of the first kirtans was when at the top of Kanchipuram temple, Ramanuja Acharya had just received Nam Diksha, and his guru had said, this is very, very secret mantra. You are not to share this with anyone. And he said, Ji Gurudev. As soon as he received that mantra, he climbed to the top of Kanchipuram temple and he started screaming out the mantra so everyone could hear it. And his guru said, what are you doing? I've just initiated you and I said, this is a secret mantra. Why are you sharing it? And he said, oh, Gurudev, I understand that I have disobeyed your instruction. And as a result of this, I may go to hell for disobeying my guru. But he said, if my going to hell and also giving the benefit of the holy name to all of these conditioned living entities, if that's the price I have to pay to share the holy name of Krishna, I will willingly do it. And then his guru was pacified. Yes, this is the right way. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayana. This is what Ramanuja was saying on the top of Kanchipuram. So Ramanuja, and actually his later on succession, within his succession, his tradition, we have our very own Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the son of Yankata Bhatt, who actually when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to South India, he saw them worshipping Lakshmi Narayan so beautifully. He said, this is wonderful. But he said, you do know that higher than Lakshmi Narayan worship is the worship of Radha and Krishna. Anyway, I digress. So We have Brahma Sampradaya with Madhva. We have the Sri Sampradaya with Ramanuja. Great, great personalities within the Kumar Sampradaya, the Kumar Sampradaya. We're talking about Sanat Kumar, Sanandan, Sanaka, Sanatan, came Nimbarka Swami. Sampradaya Acharya. These are the acharyas who appear within these lineages, like Krishna is saying, to re-establish the principles and the teachings of the founders, the original connection with Krishna. And then finally, the fourth Sampradaya is the Rudra Sampradaya, and Vishnu Swami. Okay. So we must not get confused. The Rudra Sampradaya is not the same as Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya is when Lord Shiva descends to intentionally, on Krishna's request, obscure the Vedas. And he laments at the end of his life. Rudra Sampradaya is when Rudra, Adi Shiva, is giving the true understanding of bhakti. So people will say, oh, Rudra Sampradaya, yes, I follow Shankaracharya. No, this is not the same. Shankaracharya is when Lord Shiva, he's acting, right? He's trying to play games with people. He's actually, on Krishna's request, he's trying to confuse people's mind. But the Rudra Sampradaya is something different. But the point is, we have 4 schools. In these 4 schools, we have 4 renaissance through these Sampradaya acharyas. And we have many, many different paramparas which are coming down. So then, how do we fit into all of this? Where is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all of this? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and if you've gone to Mayapur, those of you who have gone to Mayapur, you will see in Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat that his Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Maharaj established a beautiful temple. And on this temple, there are 4 sides and 4 murtis. And on those 4 murtis, he has taken the Brahma Sampradaya and Madhvacharya and listed 2 teachings. And on the other side, he's put the Sri Sampradaya, the Lakshmi Sampradaya, and Ramanujacharya, and he's listed 2 teachings. And the Komar Sampradaya with Nimbarka Swami, and he's listed 2 teachings. And the Rudra Sampradaya with Vishnu Swami, and he's listed 2 teachings. And then he's listed 2 more teachings. And the reason that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did this, the reason that he did this is because this is exactly what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. He took 2 teachings from each of these sampradayas, added 2 more teachings, and he made the Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. You must have heard this. Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. Simultaneously one and simultaneously different from the Lord. So please forgive me if I'm getting too technical here. I hope this isn't too technical. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, from these 4 different schools, he made a 5th school. A 5th school, which is not deviating from the school, but it's taking the cream of all of those schools. And it's giving what? Braj Bhakti. The ability not just to worship Lakshmi and Narayan, but the ability to understand Krishna as he is, which only occurs once in a day of Brahma. Very rare thing. And so we could go into the 2. Maybe we go into the 2 teachings that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken from each. So from Madhva Sampradaya, there was a very strong prevalence of Mayavad. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. We say this every day to Sri Prabhupada. Nirvishesha and Shunyavadi. This Nirvishesha, impersonalism, Shunyavadi, voidism. There was this strong, prevalent movement in India that everything is one. God is Brahman. Form, the Murti is just a step that you go on to understand you're part of Brahman. Actually, the Murti is Maya. God doesn't have a form. And this became very prevalent for at least 1,500 years. Shankaracharya came 2,500 years ago. So from 2,500 years ago to about 1,000 years ago, the prevalent thought process was that God's form, that Tribhangananda, that three-form bending form of Krishna with his beautiful lotus eyes, this is Maya. This is Maya. That's what people were saying in India. It wasn't until Madhva came and Ramanuja came. Madhva said, no, God is not just part of this form. God is the source of the Brahman. How can you say that the God's form is Maya? No. God is eternally there, and we are eternally there. And I'm totally against Mayavad. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada also very strong. No Mayavad, no Mayavad, no Mayavad. Why? We may say that it's obvious. Why do we have to say this point 100 times? No. Prabhupada said the last snare of Maya is that at the end of life, when you've achieved so much spiritually, you will think, yes, I am God, and I'm going back to my rightful place. So that's the last snare of Maya. At your deathbed, you'll think, yes, Vishnu Dutas are coming. It's such a serene atmosphere. Everybody's chanting, and that's because I am God. And with that, Purner Mustika Bhav, again, you'll become a mouse. Take the body of a mouse or a cockroach. No. Madhvacharya was emphatic on this, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took that spirit from Ramanuja, Sharanagati, and that Bhagwan is a person you can have a relationship with. He learned that. He took these concepts from Nimbarka. All the other sampradayas were worshipping either Dwarkadish or Narayan. No one was worshipping the form of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, apart from the Komars. So he took this Radha Krishna Murti worship from them, the superiority of Madhurya Ras. And then from Vishnu Swami, he took the emphasis on not just Siddhanta, right, or Tattva, not just the Shastric understanding, but that there has to be a sweetness. There has to be a sweetness in our sadhana. If we don't relish serving Krishna, if we don't relish serving the Vaishnavas, if we don't realize that we, along with our efforts, we are dependent on the mercy of the Vaishnavas and on the Lord, then we'll never progress. So he took these two principles. And then he took, so just like when you make a rope, if you take one bit of thread, it won't be strong. But if you take many threads and you weave those threads together, you create strength. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took 2 strands from each of these 4 sampradayas to create an 8-stranded rope. And then he added another 2 to create a 10-stranded rope. And those other 2 were Achintya Beda Beda. Each one of these different sampradayas, each one of these, I'll tell you what all of their different tattvas were. They, what's it, Vashishta Dvait, Shuddha Dvait. Anyway, Vashishta Dvait, Shuddha Dvait, Dvaita Dvait. Anyway, each one of the sampradayas, they have their own nomenclature, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, the philosophy of the soul, the philosophy of the soul's connection with God is Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. We are simultaneously the same in terms of our quality. We are coming from Krishna, yes, no doubt. And just like the ocean and the salt and the drop of water, in terms of quality, they're the same. The Lord is spiritual, we are spiritual, right? But so we're similar in terms of, we're same in terms of quality, but in terms of quantity, we are different. The ocean is vast. The ocean can have aquatics living within it. The ocean is so powerful that it can destroy a whole cliff. A tsunami can come and it can wash away a whole town, a whole city. What can a drop of water do? So in quantity, the living entity will never be the same as the Supreme Lord. Even though in quality, Satchitananda Vigraha, it is the same. Drop of water is, seawater is salty, the ocean is salty. But in terms of quantity, we're always different. So Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. The living entity, the jiva, is in one sense very similar to Krishna, but in one sense entirely different, right? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really emphasized this Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. And beyond this, he also emphasized Nam Sankirtan. But Nam Sankirtan with this Radha Bhav, with this Madhurya Bhav. So we chant the holy name of Krishna as the principal Yuga Dharma. Why? Why do we use the holy name? And why does it have to have this sweetness of Madhurya? Because even the Lakshmis of Vaikuntha, even the queens of Dwarka, right? They are curious. What is it that has captivated Krishna's mind, that he's often thinking about what happened in Vrindavan? We all know the story of Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. That Rohini, who was a queen of Dwarka, but was living in Vrindavan at that time as the mother of Balaram, she came to explain to these 16,108 queens what the special sweetness of Vrindavan was, that which captivates Krishna completely. And by the end of it, the queens of Vrindavan were aspiring. When will we be able to enter and love Krishna so personally? The Lakshmis of Vaikuntha are thinking, when will we be able to experience the love of Krishna and the gopis and the gopals? You can put your arm around Krishna. You can play games with Krishna. You can admonish Krishna. When will we have such a close relationship with Krishna? Ultimately, the Lakshmis of Vaikuntha were saying, the gopis, they went out for a night of Brahma on the Sharad season, and they danced with Krishna all night and all day, and Krishna made it seem that he was theirs only. We are only the queens. We have so much awe and reverence. When will we have that opportunity to dance and chant and sing and be with the Lord? So Radharani, to fulfill the desires of all living entities to have this closeness with Krishna, what did she do? She instigated the Nam Sankirtan mission. Because the name of Lord Krishna is not different from Krishna. Therefore, if you dance and chant, you are dancing and chanting as if you are on the bank of the Yamuna in Vrindavan. There is no difference. There is no higher dharma than Nam Sankirtan, which is done with faith. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken these 8 strands of them, and he's put 2 of the strongest and most beautiful golden strands, which is this Nam Sankirtan in the mood of Madhurya, and this Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. If you understand that you are simultaneously the same but different with Krishna, but you can have a relationship with him, and the way to perfect that relationship is through Nam Sankirtan, you can have the highest, topmost expression of love. Then your life is perfected. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has created this sampradaya of these other 4 sampradayas with his own golden magic, being non-different from Srimati Radharani. And he has created this school that we can all enter into. And who is the great follower? And this is all predicted in Shastra. This is not just, this is ISKCON propaganda, you're saying this. No. If anyone has, what's the verse? 11.5.32, Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me bring it up. 11.5.32. What does Srimad Bhagavatam say? Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Yagner Sankirtana Prayer Yajanti Hi Sumedesaha. This is Bhagavatam. This is not ISKCON propaganda. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. So there you go. Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is predicting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance 4,500 years before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. So this was going to happen. Mahaprabhu was predicted in Shastra to come. But more than Mahaprabhu being predicted, just as we've seen, the 4 sampradayas were predicted in the Padma Purana. The 4 sampradaya acharyas were predicted in the Padma Purana. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sampradaya was predicted in Srimad Bhagavatam. And then, do you know what else was predicted in Srimad Bhagavatam? Was the sampradaya acharya of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sampradaya. So we know Madhva was predicted, we know Vishnu Swami was predicted, the Kumaras were predicted, we know Vishnu Swami was predicted for those 4 sampradayas. But where was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sampradaya acharya predicted? Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31-9. Tava katam ritam tapta jivanam kavi bireditam kalmasapaham Shravana Mangalam Srimadatam Bhuvi Grinanti Jeburida Jana. The gopis are predicting. Obviously, we know Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the 1896 said very soon a great personality will come who will spread the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. But the gopis are saying in this verse, 10:31:9, 10th canto, the nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. These narrations, transmitted by learned sages, eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. What are the gopis saying? That the most munificent is the one who takes the narrations of Krishna and spreads it all over the world. Who was the one and only person that will take credit for taking the teachings of Krishna all across the world? There is only one. There is only one. Srila Abhay Charanarvindam Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. He took the glories of the Yuga Dharma all across the planet. He took the narrations of Krishna as given by Vyasadeva and Ganesh, who probably still has a hand cramp from writing so quickly, all across the planet. There's only one. And the gopis have confirmed it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has confirmed it. So our sampradaya is a sampradaya that is predicted in Shastra. It is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sampradaya. Our sampradaya acharya is Srila Prabhupada, because he has fulfilled the predictions, who no one else has. And no one else can, because the job is done. And we are following in a parampara, referencing the behavior of Srila Prabhupada. We are not trying, we please our Diksha Guru, so that ultimately we can follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada. Nothing more, nothing less. That is not to demean the Guru, but the Guru is only a Guru to the extent that they reflect the Acharya. That is the difference between Acharya, Sampradaya Acharya, and a Guru. Guru means he is heavy. He is heavy on you. Why? So that you can also follow and gain the benefit of being an Acharya. So many more things that we could talk about on this. I'm conscious of time. But to recap then, Sampradaya are the four institutions. We are part of the fifth institution, which is summarizing it, but giving the highest decree. Sampradaya Acharya means the Guru who has reestablished the original teachings in a perfect way for his followers moving forward to be able to take advantage of. Ramanuja Acharya has a huge, I think 4 or 5 years ago, they built in Hyderabad a massive statue to him. And the glory of any Sri Vaishnava is to the degree that they can please their Sampradaya Acharya, Sri Ramanuja Acharya. And equally, within our tradition, our glory is to the degree that we can please Srila Prabhupada. And ultimately, Shiksha is more important than Diksha. Diksha means to initiate. It is very important, and we must be respectful. But the Shiksha is what will perfect our life. And we can see that through all of our acharyas, even the acharyas that we have on the altar. Do you know that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is not the Diksha disciple of Jagannath Das Babaji, but the Shiksha disciple? Do you know that Gaurkishore Das Babaji is not the Diksha disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but the Shiksha disciple? And so on and so forth, up many of the different connections taking us back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is the Shiksha that is the preeminent. The Diksha, it must be there. But the Diksha is to support the Shiksha. Who is the primary Shiksha Guru in ISKCON for all time to come? Srila Prabhupada. And why? Because he is the one who can connect us all to Krishna. He is being predicted by Shastra. There is one more verse, if we have time. And there's much more that that we can all discuss on this, but there is a verse where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I cannot find it. There is a verse which Maharaj Prataparudra, maybe it was Maharaj Prataparudra chanted to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so happy. I'll share that in our next class. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so happy when he heard that, because it established that, yes, when my Sampradaya Acharya comes, if people follow him and what he has to give, they will achieve their topmost perfection. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, ISKCON Guru Vrinda ki jai, ISKCON Eldoret ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari. So I hope that all made sense, everyone. I tried to get a lot in there. Couldn't cover everything, but I hope that was somewhat useful. Any comments, questions, corrections, please feel free.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for such a relevant class, especially to the new initiates. We definitely needed all this knowledge as we digest it. Are there any questions or comments from the group?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So beautifully explained this parampara, all these sampradayas today. I never heard in this detail, and today I understood so much in detail. Prabhuji, thank you so much for this wonderful class. Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, even
Hare
I thought they
Krishna,
were just
Prabhuji.
for... Yeah, carry on. Hare Krishna. Murli Gopal.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances for Krishna Prabhupada. Thank you also for the great class on the Sampradaya. So much we've learned today, and there's so much when you're reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, it oftenly questions us about hearing Krishna Katha only from pure devotees who are very firm in disciplic section. So I think in this class we've clarified it's not so bad. It's not. We can actually hear from other sampradayas also, if I'm not wrong, also, because we can read other sampradayas, and it's not. We are not wasting our time. But I know we still have a lot in our own sampradaya to read and hear from. Maybe you can clarify that.
So, no, that's a good point. You see, all the four sampradayas have been given by Krishna, right? And all the four sampradayas are bona fide. But the unique benefit of our sampradaya is that it is giving access to a very deep and sweet interaction with the Lord that the other four sampradayas cannot. So do you understand that there is, Krishna comes in many forms, right? Krishna can come as Lord Ram. Lord Ram is not different from Krishna. Were you aware of that?
Yes.
Murali Gopal, Prabhu? Do you know that?
Yes. Yes.
Have you heard of Lord Ram?
Yes.
Ram is an expansion. So okay, let me give you another example. Say there is a king of a country, right?
Yes.
For the ordinary subjects, the king is the most powerful, correct? If you were to go to the king, would you go, hey, buddy, how's it going? No, you would go, Your Majesty, Your Royal Highness. You would be very respectful. Yeah, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Let's say that king has children. Do the children have to go to the king and say, Your Royal Highness?
No, not really.
Daddy, Baba, maybe sometimes they'll sit on his lap. Maybe sometimes they'll hide his shoes. They'll play games with him. Can you hide the king's shoes? If you go to the king's palace and you try and hide the shoes, what will happen to you?
No.
What would happen to anyone? You'd be in big trouble. If the children hide the shoes of the king, it's fine. The king would laugh. Then what about the wife of the king? She may say, my darling, my sweetness, she may look at him with love. If you go to the king and say, my darling, my sweetness, what will happen? Right? And then what about the mother of the king or the parents of the king? She may even tell off the king, hey, don't do that. Don't speak with your mouth full. Don't be rude to me. Can you go to the king and speak in that way? No. Same king is called Your Royal Highness by some. By his friends, he may be called whatever his name is. His name might be Yudhishthir. Let's just call him Maharaj. His name might be Maharaj. His friends can call him by his first name. His children can call him by a pet name, Baba, Papa, Daddy. His wife can call him darling. His mother can even give him, we call it tappar. If he's being naughty, can you hit the king? No. Same king, but different relationship. And the closer you become, the deeper the relationship. Is the relationship of a subject and the king as close as the son of the king? Or as the mother of the king? Or as the wife of the king? So in the same way, Krishna is the supreme Lord of everything. Some sampradayas will teach you to become like the subject of the king. When Krishna is in his, it's called Aishwarya Bhav. He is the source of the whole universe. That is known as Narayan. When Krishna is seen as not the creative roots, but as the king of the ruler, the active ruler, governor of the place, he's known as Lord Ram. When Krishna is considered a prince, he's known as Dwarkadish. But when Krishna is the beloved member of the family, he is known as Krishna. Right? Krishna. Same person. But it's about the relationship that you have. And Krishna, Vrajendranandana Krishna means you can become the Lord's friend, you can become the Lord's parent, or you can become the Lord's, you can interact with the Lord in that way. Do you understand the point? So our sampradaya, other sampradayas, are giving you some access to the Lord. But what our particular sampradaya is giving is establishing such an intimate relationship with the Lord, and a relationship with the Lord where you can even hold the Lord's hand. You can have a conversation with the Lord. You can, Arjuna and Krishna would lie down on the bank of the river together like best friends. You put his arm over his thingy. Mother Yashoda would tell off Lord Krishna. You tell him off, chase him around as his mother and say, hey, Krishna, you're being naughty. And Radharani, Napariye Ham, captivated Krishna. Radharani and her friends captivated Krishna's heart to such an extent that Krishna says, I can't even repay your love. So that is the special sweetness. All religious traditions will bring us to God in a certain way. But the only tradition, Christianity, even Jesus said, he said, there's much more I have to tell you, but you people do not have the ears to hear. You can't understand. You cannot understand worldly things. What to speak of godly things? So you understand that God is the supreme power, yes, good. But he said, there's much more. But are you ready to hear it? So traditions are taking you to God. But the only tradition that can tell you what God likes to eat, what God does at 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, midday, Astakalya Lila. We know what Krishna does throughout 24 hours a day. What tradition can tell you that? What tradition can tell you what clothes Krishna wears, what music Krishna likes, what food Krishna eats, what Krishna's dad's name is, what Krishna's house looks like? Only our tradition. So by all means, read all the other sampradayas, but then read ours, and you will see the special sweetness. All glories to every single other tradition. All glories to them. But only our tradition can make you a lover of Krishna for all eternity. And our tradition means the tradition as given by the authorized Acharya. And there is only one. Just like Rupa Goswami was the true representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so Srila Prabhupada is the true representative of this tradition of knowing God face to face, hand to hand. So you are it's a glorious time that Prabhu, you have committed yourself to respecting all traditions, but ultimately coming to the top of that spiritual mountain where God himself will come, take your hand and bring you to his kingdom eternally. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Does that answer your question, Prabhu? Does that answer your question?
Yes, so beautifully and so profound. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I think in that explanation, we should just be called Gaudiya Sampradaya, not Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya.
True, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made it a point that even though he took teachings from all four sampradayas, he made it a point to come within the Brahma Sampradaya. And I mean, that is a whole class in itself, because he saw that the faithfulness with which Madhvacharya separated, did not accept any form of Mayavad or anything which would somehow reduce God's position, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, yes, we must follow that. And second of all, how can Krishna teach us to follow in a sampradaya and then when he comes as a disciple, create his own sampradaya? Because everyone would then point, like even Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, what activities I do, common men follow. So they say, look, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did it, we'll do it as well. No, so he made it a point. I'm coming in a sampradaya, I'm choosing this sampradaya, but we should understand that actually our sampradaya is like actually a very unique parampara within that sampradaya of Brahma Madhva, right? It is a subsect, the most powerful subsect that actually gives shelter to all the other four sampradayas in this age of Kali. Not to confuse you, not to confuse you even more, but that's what the Shastra is saying.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, point taken. I don't think we have time for any other questions or comments. We can end the session. Can I request Eastern Prabhu, Hare Krishna, are you able to end the session for today?
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful session. I didn't know about the Sampradayas really well, but you've explained it very nicely and it has entered my brain nicely today. And also about the Parampara system. So nicely explained. Thank you so much. And I would like to invite every devotee to unmute and chant one time the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and the glorification of His Grace Krishnarjuna Das for the wonderful lessons today.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
His Grace Krishnarjuna Das Prabhuji ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Elder
Glorious the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Eastern Prabhu, for ending the session.
Hare Krishna.
Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
Formally
Thank you so
entering
much.
into this.
Good morning, good morning.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you for your blessings. You are able to see this day.
Thank you. Hare Bol.